The happiest guy right now in America has to be Mason Rudolph, right? Not because he got hit upside the head with a helmet a couple weeks after he missed a game because of a concussion. No. That's not why. Because the sole focus of the win by the Browns is over the final 8 seconds, or the fight that occurred with 8 seconds to go in the football game. No one has even mentioned the fact that Mason Rudolph was terrible. Was terrible. He was shook. He was seeing ghosts. He threw 4 interceptions and looked like he could have thrown another 4 had he just been afforded the opportunity to do so. Which leads the question, why would the Cleveland Browns rough up their MVP? Right? The best player for the Browns last night was Mason Rudolph. But I believe that is part of the strategy, part of the seed that they wanted to plant. They play each other in 2 weeks, and they likely believe that Mason Rudolph was intimidated by their pass rush, by being hit, by getting into his space. We can go through all the machinations of Mason Rudolph was trying to take off Myles Garrett's helmet, and Myles Garrett then ripped off his helmet, and somehow you're trying to say the two wrongs make a right. The reality of it is the game is not effectively, it is over. 8 seconds to go. It's a blowout. The Browns are getting arguably their biggest win of the year. The first time since they came back into existence, they're going to beat the Ravens and the Steelers in the same season. And Myles Garrett does what he has done throughout his career. Anyone who says he's been a clean player his whole year, no, he hasn't. He's played at, to, and through the whistle. He has an earned reputation. Now, some of this is not a bad thing. Like some of the Ndamukong Suh stuff, not a terrible thing. I need guys on my team that you're scared of. It is football. And can we stop right now, this very moment, November 15th, 2019, I implore you, as sports radio listeners, fellow broadcasters, people on Twitter, on Instagram, please don't say, well, you know, if this occurred on the street, it would be felonious assault and he'd be in jail. Okay, but it didn't occur on the street. It's a football game. Dude, in football, one guy puts his hands underneath the junk of another guy and orders him to hike a football. If that's not consensual on the street, that's sexual assault. There's literally assault on every play. And you can say, well, it's with a deadly weapon. Okay, you have a helmet on, you're trying to spear a dude, whatever. It is football. And in football, this is nothing more than a fight where a guy went crazy for a second. Everyone has a group of friends. I explained this. My son was watching this and then the post game on TV. And he's like, what are you going to say about it on radio tomorrow? And I'm going to say, hey, dude, when you have a group of friends, 6, 7 dudes, whoever's in your pack, you're going to have somebody who always wants to fight. You're going to have somebody who, when you fight, they go crazy. Hold me back guy. And there's going to be a guy who literally wants to fight everybody. Like, really? Yes. That appears to be Myles Garrett. So, look, was Mason Rudolph, did he kick him in the ding-ding? And did he try and take off his helmet? Probably, but that's also because Myles Garrett tackled him and brought him to the ground when he didn't have to. Game was over, put his weight on him, should have been penalized and broken up at that moment. That, by the way, is all football. And even ripping off Mason Rudolph's helmet it's something that happens in scrums. It's football. And then he tears off Mason Rudolph's helmet and he's getting held back. And Mason Rudolph's like, give me back my helmet. Kind of like Liam Neeson in whichever of the Takens you want. Give me back my son. All of this stuff, reasonable, happens. Football. You just can't swing a helmet at a dude and clock him in the head. And I almost feel bad for Freddie Kitchens, right? Almost. because his team did play well. The defense was intimidating to Mason Rudolph. They did have 4 takeaways of Rudolph. They are playing the Steelers. The Steelers' young quarterback was shook up. And they're trying to set a tone for the remainder of the season, and he was 8 seconds away from doing so. And it probably could have happened to anybody, right? Like I said, every group of dudes has a crazy friend, and every football team has somebody who wants to fight and isn't scared of the ramifications of swinging a helmet. Don't believe me? Richie Incognito's still in the league. We've seen Richie Incognito when he snaps. It's not pretty. And he's not the only one. Like, look, football's made up of a bunch of men, and you get 46 men together on a Sunday or a Thursday or a Monday, and there's going to be one guy who's crazy dude. There's one Latimer. Spot at the table! First team defense! But it didn't happen to anybody. It happened to the Cleveland freaking Browns, who just happened to be leading the league in penalties. No, Cleveland, you can't stand nice things. Freddie Kitchens was asked after the game if his team's getting out of control. Here was his response.
Do you think the team's out of control?
No. I think people get helmet-to-helmet contacts every week.
He's right. It does happen. Every week, we'll see scrums. Every week, we'll see penalties. Every week, especially in the AFC North, we see this type of nastiness. But on national TV and your biggest win of the year, your former number 1 overall pick swinging a helmet and connecting with a quarterback from another team that doesn't have his helmet on, that one I haven't actually seen before, and it just so happened to happen to your team. It's not assault. It happened on a football field. It's not Freddie Kitchens' fault, but it is, of course, his fault. It does fall at his feet. That's part of the deal. And if they were the least penalized team in the league and they had none of these issues and it happened, or they're middle of the pack, you could say, this stuff. But when you're the most penalized team in the league and your team has shown an incredible amount of immaturity, these things don't just happen. There has to be a fear of God in the guy on the sideline. And if there's not, these sorts of things are more likely to happen. More likely to happen. Here's Todd Haley, of course, former Steelers offensive coordinator, former head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, on SiriusXM on who's to blame for this mess.
This, to me, this comes back to coaching. This falls squarely right on the head coach, because the head coach talks to every assistant coach who then talk to their groups of players. And there's an old saying in coaching, you're either coaching it or you're allowing it to happen. And when you allow stuff like this to go on, and I'm not saying this particular, taking somebody's helmet off and hitting them with it is going on, but I've been on those fields in Cleveland, and part of the frustration is you see things happening and going on that you shouldn't be allowed to be going on.
Right. If you allow things to fester, this has a greater likelihood of happening. Myles Garrett does have a reputation in the league. He is going to be suspended for the rest of the year and the playoffs. Stop snickering. Still a possibility for the Browns. I don't believe it's a felony. I don't believe anything off the football field should come into play. That would be double jeopardy. He's already losing a couple $1 million by not playing the remainder of the season. I do think Freddie Kitchens should catch a good amount of the blame, and I think that Mason Rudolph wasn't wrong for going after his helmet. I mean, you do learn a lesson really quickly there, right? Have one of the offensive linemen retrieve your helmet next time, bud. But I do think that Mason Rudolph, who comes across somehow heroic, isn't to blame for trying to get a bigger, stronger man off of him when he's laying on the ground and there should have been a penalty called. But he should be very happy today because we're not paying attention to just how poorly he played last night and how inept that Steelers offense was last night, painting a very grim picture for what they'll look like the rest of the season. Oh, whatever shall we talk about? The Browns are going to brown. Right? Set your watch to it. Sun rises in the east and sets in the west. But the Browns are going to be the Browns. And just like in baseball, how do you explain things that are inexplicable? You say, that's baseball. How do you explain a team who's about to beat their rival, actually not rival, nemesis in their division? shooting themselves in the foot for the remainder of the season with a scrum gone wrong with 8 seconds to go at home? That's Browns.
Hi, I'm Doug Gottlieb from Fox Sports Radio, and you need to subscribe to the Fox Sports Radio YouTube channel where you can hear and see me. Why not? Plus, everybody else who's awesome here in Fox Sports Radio.